Music. You listen to it on a daily basis. On the radio, the television, we hear it so much that some people have memorized it to the point of being a defining characteristic of who they are as a person. Music is so ingrained into our lives that we can occasionally forget that we're even listening to it. And with that level of prominence in daily life, you wouldn't be wrong in believing that the history behind it would be at least decently well documented, yet alone known by a few people in the general public. Before I started writing this speech, I knew next to nothing on the topic, which, having made music for about 4 years now, felt kind of wrong, and my ignorance felt very misplaced. So I went searching I asked myself one question, and that was, when did music start? And that was the wrong question to ask. Of course, music has been around for millennia, yet the process for documenting it is relatively new. So I changed my question. How did the production of music start? The earliest information I can find was from the year 1025 in an Italian city called Arezzo, where a monk known as Guido created one of the earliest written music using very basic note shapes called neumes. He created this system to help the younger kids in his monasteries, helping them learn how to sing the chants better. These neumes had one major flaw, however, and that was there was no way to tell how long a note should be sang or held. So people started to move away from these and shifting to a newer system. Mind you, this shift took over 300 years, but now we start to see something that starts to resemble modern notes. Over the next 400 years, there's not too much notable development. However, one major concept is developed, and that is the scale system and the tempo system. This was very important because for scales, you get it really helps differentiate between the notes, and it makes it very simplified. It makes it very universal everywhere. Now, in the 1700s, you start to see the modern scale and the note system has been fully developed, and people like Beethoven, Mozart are creating and documenting music, and this is known as the classical era of music. Around the same time that classical music is becoming more and more popular, there's something to be said that there's something that is about to happen that is going to widely shake up the way music is experienced, and that is the incoming technological revolution. It started in around the 1800s with the barrel organ. The barrel organ is very similar to the way music boxes work today, using a large Mark cylinder to play notes on a portable organ. This was one of the first instances of automatic playback of music. Now, over the next 200 years, there's many developments. You get the gramophone, the vinyl records, then it goes on to the audio tape, then microphones, the loudspeaker, MIDI interface, synths, and all of that culminates to the decade of the 80s, marking the beginning of the modern era. In 1977, yes, 3 years earlier than the 80s, a company known as DigiDesign created the first digital audio workstation, otherwise known as DAWs. This DAW was named Cubase. Cubase was very rudimentary in design and very limited with what it could do. It could only control external interfaces that had been before, like synths, pianos, electric pianos, and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't until the late 90s where any DAW can do anything on its own, really. And that's when DigiDesign and Apple Logic created the first DAW with the support of plugins. Plugins are a group of mods that allow for the user to create something that cannot be done on anything else. It can create sounds, it can edit sounds, it can create sounds, it can put filters over them. Just there's no limit to what plugins were able to do. The years went by as companies like Apple, DigiDesign, and Yamaha, yes, the dirt bike company, have pushed the music production further, with it being more accessible than it ever has been before. This has only gotten more advanced, where today there are thousands of plugins, dozens of DAWs, but there are only about 5 remaining that are still professionally relevant. And even within the last year, there have been many notable topics that have come up, many to do with AI, whether that is to help write music or get the voice of someone to sing a song. Now, back to my question, how did the production of music start? I think the question now is, how will music evolve?